Welcome to the Whole Food Plant-Based Cooking Show, where we make plant-based cooking easy. I'm Jill, and today we are making some delicious ginger molasses cookies.
It's the all-free whole food plant-based cooking show.
This show is brought to you in part by Dalstrong. Cooking isn't just about technique. It's about love for your family, for your well-being, for the planet. Healthy cooking starts with the best ingredients and also the best tools. Dalstrong makes high-performance knives, cookware, and accessories that help you to make plant-based magic. Shop over 300 cutting-edge products at dalstrong.com and use coupon code PLANTBASED to save 10%. Trusted by over 450,000 chefs, including 3-star Michelin chef Dominic Crenn. Nourish your body and your soul with Dalstrong.
So hello again, everybody. I hope you guys are all doing well. I've got a great recipe for you here. For most of you, it's still really cold out there. We're actually in North Carolina and it's warm today. But I'm making this cookie recipe as a request from our membership community. It's ginger molasses cookies. And these are just so packed with intense flavor. And they're great, especially when it's cold outside, and ginger is just the perfect thing to go during these seasons when you're trying not to get the cold or the sniffles. So we're gonna jump right in. So these are also gluten-free, oil-free, and refined sugar-free, which is wonderful. So the first thing we're gonna start with are our rolled oats. These are organic rolled oats, 2 cups worth, and we're gonna make it into flour. But when we make it into flour, we're not going to grind it super fine. We're just going to grind it lightly. It's still going to be a little bit grainy because when you overgrind the oat flour, if you make it too fine, it really has it struggles to cook all the way through in the oven. So we're just going to lightly grind. So on my blender, that's about 20 seconds, and it's probably a pretty medium-high speed. So if you can see, it's not super fine. It doesn't look like whole wheat or white flour. It still feels kind of grainy. So I'm gonna pop that in the bowl. And we're just gonna set this aside for a second because we're gonna use that again for our wet ingredients. Okay, and if you want the complete recipe, it will be in a link in the details below. Here we have a 1/2 cup of arrowroot powder. And if you don't have arrowroot powder, tapioca starch would work also. Then we have a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 2 tablespoons of flax meal, and that is in place of the egg, which would have been there. But you don't even need to make a flax egg first, because when it gets all mixed together, that flax meal is going to soak up all of that moisture that comes from the wet ingredients while it's being mixed together. So you don't have to do that first. And then we have 1 teaspoon of ground ginger, dried ginger. Okay, so that's all of our dry ingredients. So we're just going to give it a little bit of a stir. Make sure they're mixed up pretty well. So this is a chewy cookie, and I used to love, my grandma used to buy these, I think it's Arrow Mills cookies. They're in these red, little flat red package, and they made the best, Arrowhead Mills, I think that's what it was, the best molasses cookies. And they had the most strong molasses flavor. Oh, they're so delicious. And ever since then, I've been trying to recreate that recipe. And it isn't until now that I think I've come really close. They don't look the same because there's no oil. So you don't get that really dark brown molasses color, because that's what the oil does. You know, it makes things get brown. But it's gonna taste amazing. Here we have a cup and a half of pitted dates. And just a tip on your dates, even though, oops, where I just saw one. Even though it says pitted on that package, sometimes there's still a little bit of that stem piece in there that's really hard, and sometimes there's even pits. So you have to take each date, either squeeze it apart or just squeeze it. You can feel if there's a pit in there or not, because that is the worst thing when you put it in your blender, get everything mixed together, and you hear that clanking of that pit in there. And here we have a tablespoon of chopped ginger, or you can grate it really fine. That's what's going to give you that really good punch of ginger flavor, that fresh ginger. And you do want to chop it pretty small, unless you don't mind, you know, every once in a while getting a little chunk of ginger. It's kind of exciting, right? And 3/4 of a cup of unsweetened plant milk. This happens to be soy milk. That's just what we like here, but you can use whatever plant milk you like. Just make sure it's unsweetened if you're going for that, you know, no refined sugars, because all that sweetness is going to come from your dates. Then we're going to put in our molasses. So this is blackstrap molasses. And just a little word on molasses. I know some people think, well, what's the difference between that and sugar? Actually, Dr. Greger has a really good video where he goes through and explains all of the different sugars, sweeteners, natural sweeteners, and which ones are best. But ultimately what he came to were dates and blackstrap molasses. This is the strongest molasses. There's different grades of molasses, and this is the strongest. You don't really need to use very much because it's not super sweet. It's just that really strong molasses flavor. So we're going to use 2 tablespoons. And it is really delicious. I love the flavor of this. I've actually been tempted to put a little bit of it in my coffee in the morning just to see what kind of flavor that would make. Just a teeny bit. Just to give it a, because I don't like to put sugar in my coffee, but every once in a while it's nice to have just a teeny bit of sweetness. So I think I'm going to try that. Okay, there we go. All right, now we're just going to blend this all together until those dates are completely pulverized. You want to make this into really like a paste. So it might take a little bit of effort. You might have to get your blender out, you know, and scrape down the sides a little bit, but that's okay. Let's check and see how that did. Looks pretty good, but there's still a few little date chunks in there that look a little bit too big. So I'm going to scrape down the sides. And then we're just going to stick it right back in. Blend it for one more round. While we're waiting for that, I'd like to share with you some background on our show. The Whole Food Plant-Based Cooking Show is crowd-funded, which means these free weekly recipe videos, along with our entire catalog of recipes on our website, plantbasedcookingshow.com, and our new Plant-Based Cooking Made Easy cookbook are all made possible in part by the generous patronage of our supporting members. By becoming a supporting member, you gain access to great member perks like monthly product giveaways, free downloads of our ebooks, and access to our in-depth courses, including our 28 Days Plant-Based Made Easy course, where we offer a step-by-step guide to making the switch to a fully plant-based diet. We create this show for the hundreds of thousands of viewers just like you who tune in each month from all over the world to make it easy for everyone to live a plant-based lifestyle. So if you love our content, please join us on our mission and become a supporting member today by following the link in the description. Okay, let's get back to the show. Okay, there we go. Oh, if you can only smell that. Wow, that molasses just smells so, so delicious. All right, so now we're just gonna pour that into our wet ingredients. And I've got my oven preheating to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And you'll also want to get yourself a cookie sheet ready, or a baking tray lined with, I like to line mine with parchment paper, just so it's much easier to clean up. Nothing sticks to that stuff. Okay, get all of that goodness out of there. Don't want to miss a drop. Okay. All right, then you just mixed it together really well. And it's really, this is a really, really sticky mixture. So it takes a little bit of effort to get all that mixed together. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay. Now this next part, it's a little bit messy. So if you have any little ones, they'll love this part. But if it's just you, you're gonna get sticky. So I've got my cookie tray over here, and I've got a container of water here. And that is so when you're rolling out the balls and your hands get really, really sticky, or when you're pressing them down, you just have to put a little bit more water on your hands and that will come right off. So we're just gonna set this over here. And I just use a spoon. And this is completely up to you how big you want to make these cookies. Let's see, I'm gonna put a little water first on hands. I like to make them about like golf ball size. And you just lightly roll them and put them on your sheet. So that's what I'm going to be doing here for a little bit. Okay, now you've got them all rolled out here, and now you need to squish them down, because just like regular cookies, you know how when they go in the oven and it's really warm and they just, you know, they flatten out and they ooze out, but that's because of the oil. So when you make whole food type of cookies, there's no oil in it, so they're not going to squish out and flatten out like that. So you really have to press them down. And I just put a little bit more water on my hands, and I just press them down lightly. So this looks like, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So this made 16 cookies. So that's probably, you know, they're about this size. So now we just need to get them into the oven, and we're gonna let them bake for 15 minutes and then we'll check them. But that should be just enough time to keep them really nice and chewy and moist. Okay guys, they are out of the oven, so 15 minutes was just right. They're still like soft and squishy, you can feel it, but they're done. So if you want to come in and take a closer look, ooh, boy, I cannot wait to dig into these. So I'll grab a cup of soy milk and I'll meet you at the table for a taste. Yippee yippee, time for a taste. So look at this. That is amazing. Really soft chewy. And so delicious. You can really taste the ginger and that molasses cookie, or molasses, just and just slightly sweet. Perfect for dipping. Man, I can't wait for you guys to try these. So give this a like, and I'll see you next time.